I got to tell you another little story about how you can make money in the mobile home park business. Remember back when I was telling you about the Lancer, the 1480 Lancer we bought in 1975 when we came in?
You used as an office and lived in when you first got started?
When I first got started.
Yeah.
After we bought this house, 3 years later, we leased that unit out. And we leased that unit out for, boy, we leased it out until we sold the property in 82, from 78 to 82. And we leased that unit, and I believe at that time the rent was like, I believe it was around $600 a month. And so we wound up, when we got the property back in 88, we sold that house, and the guy paid on it for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, 5 years, and he come to me one day and he said, you know, he said, we're going to move back to Georgia, and he says, I know I paid on this thing and it's almost paid off, but he says, I'm going to just give it back to you because I don't want to move back to Georgia and I don't want to take the time to sell it. I said, well, you sure? And he said, yeah. And he says, give me $100 for the washer and dryer that's in it. I'll leave that in there and I'll take everything else. And I said, you got it.
And just walk away.
And he just walks away. So I turn around, I sell it again. This time I sold it to a preacher. And this guy lived in it, and he finally had a heart attack, and his wife, he got over the heart attack, but he paid on it for another 6 or 7 years. And so we started checking things out, and finally we sold the thing, and we finally checked out, and on one $10,000 investment that we made in 1975 turned into $238,000 over the course of that time.
That one
mobile
home.
That one mobile home. Now tell me, folks, you can't buy an apartment building, you can't buy a house, you can't buy anything that you can make that kind of money on.
Well, it doesn't seem like people have the tendency to just walk away.
Well, here's the problem.
You know, from a house.
Here's the problem.
Or a condo or...
The way, that's right. But in a mobile home, especially in this particular space, we had it landscaped so well, and it was walled in and concreted in, and it was almost virtually impossible to move that unit. And it would have cost the guy, in fact, the guy got an estimate on moving a unit, and it was like $8,000 because they had to jack the thing out. It was in a real tight space. And so he says, you know, he says, you can just have it back. And we finally sold the thing, but we made, on a $10,000 investment, we made $238,000.
So that's incredible. I mean, and that kind of brings up something we really haven't talked a whole lot about is, I really can't think of another deal. You know, if I go and rent I really can't think of another situation where I would go and live somewhere where I'd have to pay $3,000 to move it. You know what I mean? Like if I go move my mobile home into your park, right now I've got to pay like around $3,000.
Unless you buy it new,
to move
and the sales company moves it in and sets it up for you. So when you actually have it moved secondary after you've lived in it a while, and the sales company that you bought it from is out of the picture, and you personally, the owner, has to move that home, the price in Farmington, New Mexico today is $3,000, because here's what happens. They take the axles, they take the tires and wheels from these trailers, and the tongues from these trailers. They take them back
the tongues, the triangular deal in front that they hook onto the truck.
The transporter.
Yeah.
And they take all that stuff, and sometimes they'll leave the tongues, but never leave the axles, the springs, or the wheels or tires. So what you have to do is, you have to buy those wheels and tires and axles, or lease them, or rent them to a moving company, and the moving company has to come out and install them. They have to take the skirting off the unit. They have to disconnect all the utilities. They have to unblock the trailer. The trailers are blocked up 18 inches off the ground to code. They have to move that trailer, and then they have to get it out of the park. And in our park, it's very tight, and a lot of times they'll have to use jacks. They'll have to use sliders to slide the thing around a tight corner, and it's just virtually impossible to get the thing out. And so people say, hey, I'm not going to move that trailer and pay that kind of money. In fact, a lady recently, they moved the unit in. She's lived there for about 3, 4, 5 years, and she got married to a guy, and they bought a house. And he was fixing up the house, and he said, you know, he says, we'd like to sell you this mobile home because our house is almost done. Excuse me. And we don't want to move it. And I said, I'll tell you what.
Because then they have to come out of pocket another $3,000.
Another $3,000. So here's what the deal was. I says, anytime you move a house in here, you cannot sell it on the premises. You have to move that unit out unless I buy it. So they come to me and says, hey, do you want to buy our unit? And I said, I'll tell you what, you've done a lot of work to that unit, you fix it up, and it's only a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and which is kind of 2-bedroom, 2-bath would be better, and it's a 14 wide instead of a 16 wide, and it'd be kind of hard to rent. I'll give you $9,000 for it. And they said, no, we can't do that. And I said, all right. I said, if you're gonna move into your new house, you can't you can't lease this thing to somebody else and leave it on the premises. It has to be sold and taken out of the park. Well,
because you don't allow other people to like own a mobile home in your park and lease it
to another person. Right. That's correct.
Because then you lose a certain degree of control over who's in there.
I lose all the control because his only allegiance is to the man that owns the mobile home that he's paying his payment on, and not to the people he's renting it. In the park.
Not the people, the spaces, where it sits. Okay.
So anyway, the lady, I'll tell you what they did. I don't know where they got a divorce or what happened, but they actually moved back into the mobile home, and I think they sold the house.
Oh, wow.
And it was over because they didn't want to move it. And I told them, I said, hey, when you leave this place, and they paid rent on it for like 3 or 4 months.
And people know this. People know this going in, right? That they're not going to be allowed to sell.
Absolutely. This is in our lease. This is in our lease agreement.
Just like you can't just go park a car on somebody else's land and put a for sale sign on it.
That's exactly
without their permission.
Without their permission.
Right.
And what we do in our lease agreement, we spell it out totally, and they read every line of that lease agreement, and they sign it and date it, and that's cast in concrete. That is what it is, and so they know that going in.
So that sounds like another good tip to somebody who's
absolutely
thinking about coming in and
Yeah, what you don't want to do in a mobile home park is you don't want to have somebody move in rentals into your park, and then park them there and lease them out. I've had so many calls that says, well, we've got this 1680 or 1660 or something, and we'd like to put it in your park and lease it out. And I said, I'm sorry, folks, we don't do that.